So the big question is this: how are those in the self-storage industry like us going to be successful in today's market? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jim Ross, and welcome to the Self-Storage Show.
Hi, everyone. This is Jim Ross from the Self-Storage Show. We're going to continue our series where I'm talking with owners in the self-storage industry to kind of get their firsthand accounts and experiences. So today I got Jennifer Perkins with me. How's it going?
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of fun. We've gotten to know each other for over the last, what's it been, almost a year now. And I guess
Yeah.
kind of before that, with some of the
In
challenges.
3 years. But yeah, really.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in a second. But yeah, if you don't mind, just kind of give us a quick little rundown, a little introduction, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, so I'm Jennifer Perkins, and I know Jim because I own a self-storage facility, and I own Synergy Storage, which is in Dixon, Tennessee, just west of Nashville. We have 224 units, and right now we're doing an expansion, adding another 300 units. And I originally met Jim because he does a lot of education, and I learned a lot of different ways to run my storage facility because I managed it for myself for a while. And so we'll talk more about how our relationship developed over the years and how we work together now.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's kind of a good story. I like how it started that way. So how did you guys get into storage in the first place? I mean, everyone wants to get into real estate and they're doing all sorts of different things, and sometimes self-storage now it's like the darling of the industry, but it used to be kind of like, ooh, self-storage,
Right.
that kind of thing. How did it come across your guys' radar?
Yeah, so just kind of a coincidence, really. We bought a house, a fixer-upper with 8 acres. It was an old rundown farm and really didn't have any intentions of turning the property into storage initially. Just it was like, what can we do with this? It's land on a busy highway, and, we could build more houses, or, what should we do with it? So we bought it and asked around, asked people in the community that knew development more than us, what would you do if you bought this land? And they just kept saying storage. And so that's really and truly, if everyone said grocery store, I'd be on a podcast right now talking about grocery stores.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's really
okay.
how we got into it.
So yeah, you just kind of did a local poll, just asking everybody, huh?
Yeah. What's, the right use of this land for the community? And, the people that have been in the community longer than me and knows
Yeah.
that area better, said what they thought it should be in it. I just kept hearing storage. So it became storage.
Oh, that's perfect. So what was after the next step after you're like, okay, cool, I'm doing storage here? What was kind of the next steps to get going?
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about storage ownership or especially development. So it was a lot of research and figuring out, well, how do we turn it into storage? And so the situation was, it was a house with a bunch of land and it was zoned agricultural. And so you can't put self-storage on agriculture. It has to be commercial. So we had to rezone it commercial. And backing up a little bit, we actually, when we bought this property, we got seller financing. We weren't able to get the mortgage to buy the property. So we got the seller to carry back the balance for it's 2 years is what we agreed to.
Yeah.
And so actually within 10 months, we refinanced out that note, paid the seller back, and then we took 4 acres of that property, rezoned it commercial, and took that out of our refinance. So then we owned 4 acres free and clear of commercial land.
Wow.
Okay. So now we've got the house and 4 acres, a new mortgage on that, took a little cash out on that to get feasibility study appraisal, which were the costs we had to pay before closing on the construction loan. And then we had the 4 acres free and clear that we use as our equity injection, our down payment into our SBA 7A Small Business Administration, a new construction loan.
Yep. Oh, good. So yeah, and then you started getting it built and all that. So we'll kind of fast forward here for a second. So now you actually have it built, and you self-managed it. You bootstrapped the whole thing. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about that, because I mean, kudos to you. That's awesome. But at the same time, that's how you learn about the industry too. So that's
Yeah.
Fantastic. But kind of talk about that.
So that was a great experience. I mean, a lot of difficult things we had to overcome and learn about, but you know, when we opened the storage facility, that became my job because we had to have management there. That was part of the requirement with the SBA loan, had to have an on-site manager.
Yep.
And so I quit my job, my W-2 job, the day that we opened the storage facility.
Oh.
And that became my job. I actually took a little bit of a pay cut and went in the office there every day, just like I would my regular job, and became the manager and leased up. And I don't think we were quite stabilized, but I worked there for a little while, and then I realized it wasn't really necessary for me to be in the office for 40 hours a week. So then I went into a remote model that I kind of adapted based on the needs of the area.
Yeah, and that's maybe a little bit ahead of the curve, because now that's kind of like everyone's talking about doing the remote management and automated, type of model, and it worked. Worked for you. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, how are you doing it? Were you just taking calls and then meeting people there, kind of a thing, or how did that?
Yeah, it was a trial and error thing. So that was
Yeah.
before COVID. So that wasn't
Sure.
common in the industry at the time. And at the time, I was the only person I knew that was doing that. And
Sure.
so I just, I put on the door that we had office hours by appointment only. So anytime somebody said, hey, I need to come in on Thursday at 10 o'clock and meet with you, if they were the type of person that had to meet you in person, initially I would do that. Okay. So you could call me and I'd answer the phone any time of day, take a call, help people with whatever they needed. But I push people to go online to rent the units themselves. I did the Google ads, and I just kind of built out a really beautiful website so that people would just go through the process, a few clicks, rent the unit, not need to meet with me. But if somebody did need to meet with me, maybe they had a disability or something, then yeah, I would still go into the office and meet with them. Eventually I realized almost nobody actually needs to meet with somebody. And if they do, there are still storage facilities around, a lot of them that have somebody that sits in the office all day. It's just not me.
Nope, and it works for that model. And at your facility, and hey, like I said, you run it up, did fantastic. I'm curious now with how we met, online. It was during one of my challenges, right? Like the Facebook challenge or something like that. I did like a 30-day challenge.
Yeah, you were doing a class.
Okay.
You're putting together and teaching people how to manage their storage facility.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's probably one of those 30-day classes I would do. Basically every day maybe one of those times I would do like a daily thing. I'd jump on for like 15, 20 minutes and kind of like do a group session. We'd all kind of do it together and have a little plan of action of today's plan of action today is you're going to do your Google My Business optimization kind of a thing. And cool, we do it. The next day we would talk about, tracking and ROI, lifetime value of the customer, just kind of putting all the pieces together. So you kind of going through that, right? Was you built or as you were renting up? I'm trying to remember the time.
Yeah, before I did it twice. Before we opened, I did it the first time. And so I didn't know anything about running a storage facility. And I didn't know of any like training that I could take that would teach me how. I didn't have a mentor. I never worked at a storage facility. So before we opened, I took that class, and that just taught me the essentials of what I needed to know, and really above and beyond probably what most people know that run a storage facility and own a storage facility. Yeah. And then I did it again after we opened, and I over here on my shelf have that course printed out. It was an online course, but I printed it out and I referred back to it for years, on how to manage the storage facility.
Nice. Oh, that makes it feel good. A lot of times I don't hear, people actually implementing it. You know what I mean? I hear a lot of times people like, oh, good, you're doing that course. Awesome. Well, I don't care about that. Are you using it? What are you doing with it? So that makes it feel good. Yeah. So now that you've kind of gone through this, and I know you guys are always looking at, expanding your empire there, getting more storage and things like that. Kind of lessons learned along the way, because I know this was the first time going through it. There's trials and errors. There's a lot of things you can kind of look back on and be like, ooh, could have done that better. Any suggestions on lessons learned?
Man, so many lessons that I've learned, and I'm still learning, right? I mean, you just don't know what you don't know. And with self-storage, most people are going to recommend if you go through any kind of training, which I hadn't whenever I got into it, but they're going to recommend you do acquisitions before development because there's a lot of different moving pieces to development. If I could go back and do things differently, I would have used more of the vendors that were endorsed by my local self-storage association. I definitely would have relied on that a lot more. I would ask for more references, actually checked and made sure that the quality of work, was delivered to previous clients, to people that were hired, learned a lot of hard lessons on that. And I would have reached out to more people just for mentorship, felt like I was inconveniencing people to ask for help, and people ask me for help all the time and I'm happy to help them. And I think a lot of people are, you just have to ask. So I definitely would have asked for help more.
And that's one thing, especially for everyone that's watching this right now. Seriously, what you just said, especially in storage. I don't know why, just maybe because it's all I've done my life in that industry. I know everyone that just is very open to talking, about, the ins and outs and what's best practices. And they're very open with their time. And I've had people be like, oh, other industries aren't quite like that. Like, really? Like, I don't know. But I've just heard storage, for whatever reason, a lot of the big players and people that are very successful are more than happy to talk. And more, especially doing these kind of things, a lot of guys are going and doing the podcasts and the online trainings and sessions like that, and not just the conferences, but they're making themselves available. And so, yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask. And yeah, sometimes the smallest little things, a little advice, if you take it, can make a huge difference in your operations and building.
But I found it's very rare to find someone who's successful in the storage industry that has a scarcity mindset. People are so giving and willing to help. And there are so many free resources out there. There's ones you can pay for too, but there's a lot of free resources out there that can help get you started and educated in self-storage.
Yep, exactly. A lot of times people will just call me and just ask a basic question. I'll just kind of give them the rundown of like, talk to this guy. Cool. You're set. So
yeah, you've given me people to talk to before who have been really helpful. Yeah,
exactly. Well, perfect. This has been great. Just kind of hear, the story, especially for our first self-storage owner, kind of going through this process. And I will have to tell you've hit it out of the park for your first one. Not to say you're lucky and all that, but because you're very intelligent, you know what you're doing and do your homework and all that. But for your first site, first build, and not buy an existing, but first build and doing as well as you have, that's awesome. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the next projects are going to be.
Well, the harder you work, what is it they say? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yep, exactly. That's good. So I'm sure people are listening to this. They might want to reach out to you as well, as to kind of, like we said, we're open to talking, kind of guidance and people. So you might have some people that might be interested in wanting to reach out to you. So if you don't mind, you have some contact info you can give?
Yeah. So, you can find me on Facebook, Jennifer Perkins. You can message me there and kind of see our different businesses. That's a great way. My email address is jennifer37029@gmail.com. That's a great way to reach me. And is it okay to give out my phone number, or should I?
That's up to you.
Okay. Well, my phone number, and it's best to text me, not call, is 615-927-5139. So I love to talk about self-storage. We'll talk with anybody about it, but, please text me before you call, because it does ring a lot.
I bet it down. No, you're very busy. So no, that's great. And like I said, you're open with your time, because again, as someone that's kind of getting into it, want to talk to someone that's actually kind of been there, done that for the first time. So, and you're a good person to talk to about that. So again, I appreciate it being open with your time and squeeze me in your schedule to talk about this. And thank you very much. We'll have to do it again. We'll do it for the next one that you bring on. We'll do a part 2.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
All right.
Bye. As a thank you for watching and listening, I'd like to give you the most incredible free gift ever, designed to increase your leads, rentals, and revenue for your self-storage business. It's called the Ultimate Self-Storage Management Playbook, and it contains courses,
past summits, my book, and so much more. You can get all of this for free right now at 3milestorage.com. That's the number 3milestorage.com.